Yeah, good afternoon, YouTube. So today we're taking a look at this gas line that comes off of my RV cooktop. And this is the end that screws into the valve, and it's got an M8 by 1 thread there with a compression fitting. This is a 4 millimeter outside diameter tube, and the inside diameter is probably right at 2.5 millimeters. This end here is what screws into the burner, so there's a female thread inside the burner. So this is M13 by 1 thread, which is a really odd thread size. Your normal metric threads are like 8 by 1, then there's a 10 by 1 or 10 by 1 1/4, then you'll have a 12 by 1 1/4, and then you typically jump up to 14, and there usually is very few 13 millimeter. So this is a typical compression fitting. So you've got an 8 millimeter thread there, and with the thread pitch, the thread's going to go in about 1 millimeter on each side, so that'll be about 6 millimeter on the inside diameter of the thread. And then by the time you drill a hole through there for the tube, you've got 4 millimeter diameter hole, so that leaves enough material there for this thing to be strong enough. And that's typically how a compression fitting is done. There's just a little ferrule there on the end, there's a taper inside the valve, a taper inside of here, and then when you tighten that up, it compresses that ferrule onto the tubing there. Now this one is really different. You've got a 13 millimeter thread with just a 4 millimeter diameter hole in it. This ferrule is special. I think it's actually crimped onto the tubing separately. The tubing doesn't stick through. The actual diameter of the inside of the burner hole is this big. So this is actually what seals. This part down here is just extra metal, basically. And then there's a little tiny tapered hole in this thing, but you can see how thick the walls are on this. I think the reason this is done this way is that the company that makes the burner, which is SABAF, S-A-B-A-F, in Italy, they make these burners with a female hole that's as big as the biggest possible tube that you're going to fit in there. And if you want to use a smaller tube, you use a reducing ferrule like this. You still have to use the big nut. And so I guess in this case, because this is an RV cooktop and it's a rather short run of tubing here, you've got about 11 inches, maybe 270 millimeters. So I had a really hard time trying to find what this thing is called. Now there's a company called Parker, and they have a brand, I think it was a company at one time that Parker acquired, called Legris, L-E-G-R-I-S, Legris or Legris, not sure how you pronounce that, but they have something very similar, and they do that for this same reason, so that you can have one burner with a big hole in the side, and then you can use smaller diameter tubing, and they make this reducing ferrule here. So you can see this ferrule plugs into the threaded part, say on the burner, on the stove. You plug that in here. This has a taper that seals into there. There's a separate ferrule that's the size of the tube, and then you have your nut that's got a taper inside of it, very similar to this. So it's just like this, except this is two pieces. So it's got a reducing ferrule and then a regular ferrule, and then you screw that together. This gets pushed in here to make the seal, and then this gets pushed in to seal around the tube. Now this is a little bit different. I'm not sure if that's actually two pieces. I can't tell if there's actually two pieces there or not. It's very similar to this, but these guys don't make M13 by 1. They have like an M13 by 1.5 thread. The burner manufacturer actually shows these parts on their web page, but I was unable to get anybody to answer my questions about these. And I think they only want to sell these to manufacturers. They don't want to sell to the general public. So I can't buy these, but they have a picture that shows a bunch of different sizes of these things, but I couldn't figure out what they're called. I found a catalog page that listed an M13 by 1 tube nut. So this is called a tube nut. It's male thread, because it's got to be male thread, not female thread like your typical compression fitting. But this is like completely backwards. It's got the female thread in your burner, and then the male thread is on the tube nut. But anyway, I found a company in the UK called Norgren, Norgren, and these are also sometimes called Enots, Enots, and they make this in an M13 by 1, so I went and ordered one of those from the UK. Actually, I got a couple of these. So the difference is I couldn't find this reducing ferrule. That seems to be a really specialty part. This is built for an 8mm tube. So this is an M8. There's your M4. You can see the huge difference in size there. And so this is set up, like I said, for an 8mm tube. So that I've got two different ferrules here. I'm not sure which one is going to work. This one is a little shorter. It's got two tapers on it. This one is a little bit longer and has a stepped profile. So I'm not sure which one is going to work the best. I've got to just screw it in there and see which one seals up. They both fit. That'll go into the burner, and then that'll screw in, compress the ferrule onto the tube. So like I say, here's the other end. This is M8 by 1 with a compression fitting. I need a bigger tube in there because that 2.5mm ID is just way too small. It doesn't flow enough gas for natural gas use. So what I did was I found a company called Fitting Space, and they make a bunch of adapters. So this one is M8 by 1 to 1/8" pipe thread, and then I picked up an 1/8" pipe thread to 1/4" compression. So I'll screw this into the valve, I'll screw this into the adapter. This is 1/4". So anyway, I just need a short little piece of 1/4". I want to use as little of that as possible. So it's just got the ferrule on the end. You'll slide the nut over, slide it in there. There's your taper. So that'll go in there and screw on like that. So this will come out of the gas valve. This is the 8mm tube. Inside diameter on that is normally 6mm. So I was able to run a 1/4" drill bit in there, just a little bit. Then I can slip this 1/4" tube inside. I'll flux and solder that right there, and then that transitions me to this 8mm tube. But yeah, everything fits. This guy screws into the valve. This guy screws into the burner. I just need to figure out which of these two ferrules are going to be the right kind. Here's where the thing seals, right on that taper right there, because you can see there's the 8mm ferrule. If you were to cut this ferrule in half, that's what you would have there. That's the taper of the ferrule. And then this part here is just mimicking the 8mm tube. But yeah, I think this burner was built for an 8mm tube, and then Ken just decided to use a 4mm tube. Being that this goes into an RV, camper, boat, you don't have a lot of room under the cooktop, so I guess they probably wanted this to be very compact. And for propane, this tube is okay, but for natural gas, it just doesn't flow enough gas. Yeah, if I try blowing through here, you can hear it just barely goes, where if I blow through here, I can breathe through this tube. I would probably suffocate if I had to breathe through that tube, because you just can't flow any air through there. This took a long time to find, because I didn't know what to call this. because if you don't know what this is called, you can't search for it. I would search for M13 by 1 compression fitting, or until I found that this was called Norgren or Enots. And once I found that, then I could find somebody selling this. I found several companies in the UK had online ordering, but they would either only ship to the UK or to Europe, but they wouldn't ship to the US. And I think I found one that would ship to the US, and they wanted several pounds for one of these, but they wanted like 30 pounds shipping. So I finally found one place that would sell these for under $5, and the shipping was about $5. Finally found what they were called, and then found somebody that would ship reasonably. And then, like I say, I found the barrels locally, but it's this 13 by 1 thread that's really bizarre. So anyway, that's the long quest to find that fitting. So this is a real bodge job, I guess, because you've got extra fine metric tube nut, 8mm tube, and then it transitions to 1/4" tube to 1/8" pipe thread, back to 8mm metric thread. So one thing I'm probably going to do is check the diameter of all these and make sure that the inner diameter of this is at least as big as this tubing here, so that there's no restrictions all the way through. It goes at least that big, because that's kind of my minimum size right there. I can't get any bigger than this 1/4" tube. That took several months, probably close to 6 months, to find that thing. So I'll put links in the video description to where I got all these pieces from, in case you have one of these cooktops with the Italian burners. So this is the SABAF, SABAF.it. I'll put their webpage link in there, but they do the can SRL cooktop burners. And yeah, if you need to go to a bigger tube, it is possible once you find all these components. That was a definite Easter egg hunt, looking for one of those guys. So yeah, there's, I think, what's going to work. So I've got to do a little bit of tube bending and fitting and measuring, and I'll get all that worked out. So I'll bring you back and show you what that looks like. So anyway, if you have any questions about this, you can post up in the comment section below, and I'll put any follow-up videos over here in the end screen. And as always, thanks for watching.